dribble.
The champ is here. I must be the greatest. The champ is here.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people.
The champ is here.
I will not lose.
I'm a bad man. I took up the road.
Yes, welcome. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with we. My name is EJ, and I got my man,
MH.
He is the DB of the show, and we are Black in Sports, giving a voice to the culture that won't shut up and dribble. Here interviewing the best professionals in the game and in the boardroom, covering it all, laughing at it all, while providing a platform to be heard. So you know what we do about this time. We are happy in season 3 to introduce our first guest of the season. Now, she's a chip off the old block, like her dad used to say. Now she's chipping at the media industry. So some networks you may have heard, CNN, Showtime, CBS, so MTV and more. But now she's at ESPN as the UFC anchor and the host of Festivities. You got to make sure you emphasize the festivities.com. Please clap it up for Karyn Bryant, or KB as we want to call her.
Hey.
Let's go.
Thank you guys so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. So, Karyn, we're going to jump right into it. This is going to be a nice little conversation. I'm excited about it. So, we ask all our guests to start. Give us your shoot your shot moment, a moment where you kind of bet it on yourself, whether it was you made the shot or you didn't make the shot, but just you bet on yourself, you put it out online, you kind of shot your shot.
Wow. I'll say I shot my shot like when I first got my job at MTV, way back when. I used to work at a radio station at the time, and I knew they were looking for people. So I made my audition tape was like me at the boards of the radio station. And I remember I had a CD, and I remember I was like, pretended the CD was my mirror, and I was like, oh, hey there, and caught a little thing. And I was like, oh, whatever. And made my audition there. And I ended up going down for an audition in New York and got the gig. So I guess that was shooting my shot. I will say, yeah, it worked. So it worked for a little while. So yeah, so there's one. Okay.
So tell me about your time in New York, right? Because that's, people get make or break broken in that city, right? Like it's definitely fast paced, but I mean, for entertainment, it definitely is a great spot to start.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I love New York. I lived there for 7 years overall. I lived there like for 6 years, and then moved back the time when I was working with CNN. But I love New York. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from outside of Boston, so it's not a huge adjustment for me to move there. But I went with a job in hand, which definitely helps. I had the MTV job before, and that's why I moved there. And looking back now, I know how little they paid me. But at the time, you're 21, 22, not to say you don't need a lot of money, because you certainly do need the money in New York, but it was enough to live. And honestly, when you're a VJ, you don't have to really spend a lot of money a lot of time than when you do go out, you know what I mean? Like people comp you on things, and you get in here and you didn't have to buy a ticket for that. And so I had a lot of fun, but when that job ended, yeah, I do remember living in New York, and you're like, okay, wow, how am I going to pay for things now? And so luckily I did go from job, there wasn't too much time between jobs. There was sometimes, and you got to hit the folks up. And luckily I had folks that were cool with it, loaning me money sometimes. But yeah, it's really hard. But you find, you learn a lot about yourself and your own resiliency. And, I feel like the same thing happens out here in LA though. You come here with something in mind, and, it can make or break you. It's a different kind of make or break, and it's a lot easier to float here without a job and kind of float around than you could in New York, but I would say that both places really kind of force you to, either go for it or yeah, people kind of wash out. They can't hang. So, I could hang. I loved New York. I love it. I could move back. Yeah.
Speaking of the East Coast, so we have a joke on this show. Like, I've lived 1,000 different places. I grew up in a military family. So I used to live in Boston, South Boston, for a couple of years. Okay. Never met anybody from that area that didn't have personality. So a lot of your personality, does that come from family, or does that come from just kind of the region itself, or a little bit of both?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Back east, I feel like a lot of people just kind of, I guess it's a cliche, right? But people are more forthright and speak their mind more. And out here on the West Coast, you get a little bit more of somebody saying nice things to you. And then as soon as you leave, maybe they don't say nice things about you. And back east, they'll just tell you the not nice things to your face is the theory, right? Which is sort of kind of true. But I think a lot of my personality comes from the fact that where I grew up, I really was the only brown-skinned girl in my town. And so, I say this a lot, but I had two choices really, right? Like everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew where I was going. You could track me at all times. And so it was like, you have the choice in that matter. If you stand out for something, is to try to hide from the standing out, or to just go, look, I know you're all staring at me. So what am I going to do with the spotlight? Right. So, I guess I kind of turned it more to that second way of not trying to hide from the fact that I knew everybody was staring at me. And I guess I knew, that I probably wanted to do, well, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, but like, I don't know, there's something in my personality. I mean, maybe it helped that I did have a great home life, because I feel like, if the home life wasn't solid, going out in a world that crapped on me and called me names and was not kind to me would have been really hard. And I probably wouldn't be who I am now. So I will say that having the great home support really helped balance that out, of the good messages I was getting in one place and the awful ones I was getting somewhere else. But I will say this in hindsight now, I'm realizing that this is going to sound weird, but like sometimes it's a detriment, right? Like, because I have a mom and dad and a family that believed in me so much and was like, oh, you're going to do great things and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And like, you are a superstar. And then you go out in the world and the rest, and the rest of the world, like, yeah, no, not so much, because of various things. And that's not to say I haven't achieved a lot of things, but there's so much more that I want to do. And there are just some things in this world that are going to make it so that I'm just never going to get them. And so it's hard. It's hard to sometimes like put those two worlds together, right? Of like having a lot of belief in yourself, but then also realizing what the real world is like. But so I will say a lot of my personality was formed by that, by being a person who was a unique, standout kind of person. And then it's just weird how many times that theme has followed me in other parts of my life, of being the only one to do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I guess I was just made for it. Long answer.
No. So with that foundation and kind of just your upbringing, how did you fall in love with sports?
Well, I always loved playing them. I was always good at them. And so part of the love of sports comes from like, I really like them. Growing up, I played baseball, soccer, and basketball. And then when I got to high school, I had to switch from baseball to softball because, girls. And so anyway, I was still good, but like, it's a different game, playing softball or whatever. But I used to bat cleanup. I was a captain. I caught and I played third and stuff like that. I really liked it. Baseball was probably actually my best sport. But, my dad used to coach Pop Warner football, and we always watched, fights at home. My mom loves tennis. I play tennis now. We always all of us liked sports. My brother didn't like sports as much, but he, he's a great golfer now, but as a kid, he wasn't as into sports, but, so I loved it because we loved it in my house, so, I'm a Patriots fan because that's my actual team, like people are like, oh, you guys you just like Tom Brady. I'm like, no, that was the team I grew up watching, my dad had tickets back when you couldn't get somebody to go with you, like Steve Grogan was the quarterback and people didn't like it, So, I've always really loved sports. And in fact, actually it's interesting. A guy sent me a message the other day on Instagram saying that my dad was his Pop Warner football coach. Oh, wow. And so I kind of freaked out when he wrote me this really nice message and was just telling me some stuff about my dad as a coach. Which was really great to hear. And I was like, yeah, no, that sounds about right. So it got me a little bit worked up, like emotional about it. But yeah, I mean, I just grew up in a family that we really loved sports. And so it's been something that I'm not surprised I got into, because I think it's great.
Nice.
So following up that, as a Patriots fan, I got to get, a couple questions out there about the Patriots. So for one, I just want you to kind of touch on the greatness of Tom Brady, the GOAT. I think we can all agree on how great he was, but you probably saw his start and all the way through his career up until obviously you ended with the Buccaneers. And then the coach, Josh McDaniels, who was a part of all 6 championships there with the Patriots. He's now the head coach here at the Las Vegas Raiders. So I wanted to kind of get your opinion on both of those pillars in the Patriots history.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting thing with Tom Brady. Like, I feel like he got good and then he became enemy number 1, right? Like, everybody just hates him, and the tuck rule and the this and like, I would get go back and forth, funny debates with some people about it. They just get mad. And I'm like, well, are you mad he's the GOAT, or are you mad he's not on your team? Like, they think he got special treatment and stuff like that, which I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I will say it did hurt to see him leave and go to the Bucs. I didn't like that. And, the fact that he then went and kept playing so well is really kind of frustrating. Like, I do, though, I'm a don't hate the player, hate the game kind of person. Right. So, more power to him. I'm happy for him. I'm just pissed off that we let him go type situation, right. And then in terms of the Raiders, I mean, that's a hot mess, though, isn't it? I mean,
wow.
I mean, so some of it's a mess. I mean, I think it's good for them. They got a good guy. I mean, you can't be on a team as great as the Pats and not learn a lot. And obviously, he knew a lot there to help create that success. So that is exciting. That is exciting for sure. It's funny because I realized this last year. I was like, oh, I guess I got to pick up a West Coast team because it's hard to get the Pats games. You don't always get them out here in LA. And I was like, let me pick up a West Coast team. So I actually this year had started rooting for the Rams right on time. Check it out.
What did you just say about Tom Brady fans? Like,
I know.
You're doing so well.
It's funny because it was just good timing. I was like, well, I got 2 choices, right? And I was like, let me just go with Rams. I'm honestly not that invested, but I was able to go to the wild card game, and something. The SoFi Stadium's nice. I just really like sports. There's never going to be another team I like as much as the Pats, though, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
So before we go into your career, one last question, kind of getting a little bit of the background. So went to Brown, right? Poli-sci major,
and sociology. Double major.
So got them both, right? So
both
of them. How did you choose that, and what did you ultimately? Was this the path when you chose that? And did you play any sports while you were in college, whether it was with the team or?
So I did it. It's funny. It all is kind of tied together because I did think. So when I went there, I initially thought I was going to be a lawyer, like probably a trial lawyer. I like the idea of the performance part of the law as well. I think I would have been a great trial lawyer, but I think I know myself, and I don't think I would have wanted to be the person who defends people who I know did it type thing, right? So
OJ did it.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be hard.
OJ did it.
You know what I mean? And so I actually know Sean Hawley, who worked on she was part of the Kardashian team on that. That's a whole other story. But so yeah, there was a part of me that was just like, I don't know, man. I like money and stuff, but I don't know if I want to be a person that gets bad people off, So then I was like, okay, so then maybe I would just be a prosecutor. And I was like, well, prosecutors are broke. So then, you know what I mean? So then I was like, well, which is it going to be? But so literally while I was there, I had tried out for the softball team. So the girl that played my positions basically was only a junior, and she was already like all league and stuff like that. And the coach was like, yeah, you're probably really not going to get any playing time. So I was like, all right, well, that sucks. So I didn't make the softball team. So I ended up going down to the radio station to start to do that. And that ended up being obviously the right thing, because by my second semester freshman year, I was doing morning drive radio, and then I would go to school. And I look back on it now, I don't know how I did it. I literally was up at like 5 a.m. I would do 3 hours of radio, go to school and double major, and I still got great grades. And so it's amazing. My afternoon class did suffer a little. I was sleepy a lot of the time, but I still got my work done. So the path was to probably be a lawyer. But then once I got into work at the radio station, I really loved that. And I rose through the ranks there doing, morning drive and afternoon drive and things. And I was music director. I was program director after I stayed there. I stayed after I graduated. And from program director, I went to MTV. So the TV thing grew out of radio. And in fact, the sports TV thing grew out of after I left CNN, and, Showtime Championship Boxing was just looking for somebody. And my agent was like, well, does it have to be a guy? And does it have to, and they were like, no. So, I met with them, and if you can do interviews and you know how to listen and that kind of thing, you can, kind of transfer that to different things. I had an interest in sports already. I did watch boxing growing up. I had to learn, a lot too. But the great thing about reporting and stuff like that is you ask questions, right? As long as you don't pretend to know more than you know, you're going to be all right, probably.
Probably. I love it. So we want to transition. We like to call this part in the game. So this is when we talk more about your career. Just, we're slowly starting to get into that. Okay. So I want to start with, I think a monumental thing, and I know you've evolved since then, but just that you co-founded MMA Heat in 2007. That's amazing to be in the early forefronts of doing something and how it's catapult, because we only see what the UFC is today, and some other leagues are starting to evolve because it's becoming, one of the top combat sports, right? Taking over boxing and other things like that. So how did that come about? I mean, first of all, just want to give you your flowers and say that's amazing, right?
Thanks.
Just to, foreshadow and do that. But how did that come about?
Okay, so this is going to be kind of interesting. So at the time we started it in 2007, and I started that with my soon to be ex-husband. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting thing. So I had been working for Showtime, and from there we did those Saturday night fights, right? So like the Kimbo fight and that kind of stuff. I was there. If you look at the picture of Kimbo being knocked out, you see me sitting there right by the side of the cage. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting there with Jared Shaw. We're like, what just happened? So anyway, after I had worked with them, there was a lull, and I didn't have anything going on. And at the time, my husband was like, hey, well, maybe we should start doing, this stuff on the internet. He was a computer guy. And, we start doing stuff on the internet. And I was like, I don't know, man. When you come from TV back in, 2007, you're like, well, I work on TV. Why am I going to take a demotion and go work on the computer? Absolutely. And so I was like, not that into it. But I needed something to do. And so we were like, okay, well, we'll just start doing this anyway. So we started to do it, and it wasn't that I didn't love the sport, I love sports and stuff. But like I said, the hard part for me to get over was it feeling like a demotion to go from television to working on the internet. Now, of course, everything's on the internet and everything's streaming, and it's like just it's its own destination, and it's completely valid, right? But so anyway, you had to, we build it up, and so you start the YouTube and the website and stuff. And the thing about it is in the back, then, in terms of access to fighters, you could still get a lot of access to them, at gyms and things like that, which you can do. And we did show up, and because I had a lot of experience already doing actual real television, I don't want to sound conceited, but I don't think it was that hard to have our work just, stand out from others, because it already was at a much more professional level. And, a lot of people are like, well, I got a phone with a record thing, so I guess I'm a reporter. It doesn't work that way, and so in that respect, it was easy to get noticed in a way. And for, Dana, because we're also both from Boston and stuff like that. And I think it's seen some other stuff I've done. So, he was always really cool with me getting, interviews and stuff like that. But, it was tough because I was a woman. I'm a Black chick. Like, a lot of people didn't want to hear from me. I got a lot of go back to the kitchen, go make me a sandwich, go this, go that. in the early days and for a long time. And so I just didn't stop. We just didn't stop, right? And just kept going. And so we built up a lot of things. And so we do have, there's quite a catalog of things now that we were able to shoot because, we would go around and invest a lot of our own money. That's the thing is you really got to spend a lot of money, on some of those things. So we would go to events. And the thing is too, at first, you can't even get a credential for a UFC show. It takes a lot to even get credentialed. So you have to do a lot of work to get credentialed. And the woman that used to run the credentials for the UFC was a mean woman. And she would hardly give any, no, she was, I'm being nice.
We saw that censorship. You just censored yourself. Love it.
Yeah. So, but eventually we got credentialed. And at first I remember it was like, you can only go in the media room and this and that. And then from there, the access built and my relationships built. And, I started working for the UFC it'll actually be 10 years this April. And that's one thing I need to make a quick little correction is I work for the UFC. I don't work for ESPN. I work directly for the UFC. So, I'm coming up on my 10th year. I just renewed for another 4. We worked that out in January or so. So it's great. I absolutely love it. I have a blast. It's just that there's so much more I want to do. And, so the frustration for me right now is trying to level up and do more because I love what I do, but I'm honestly not busy enough. I was way busier when we were with Fox. The ESPN deal took a lot of my work away and took a lot of my paycheck away. And that sucks. So I'm trying to get more work.
Yeah. And we'll get into a lot of that stuff when we get into the platform. So I'm excited to talk about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're taping this on International Women's Day. So being a woman in sports is still a topic in 2022, and it probably shouldn't be. And being a Black woman in sports is probably a whole nother layer into it. So you touched on that, your journey through it, and being a woman in combat sports. How do you push through? And what are words of advice that you may have for some of our listeners entering that platform?
Damn.
It's really hard. It's really hard. You won't get what you deserve because it's not fair. It's not a meritocracy. Your hard work will not necessarily get paid off because of okay, so
this is America, Jack.
I mean,
yeah.
So, the thing about it is I work really hard. And it's really great when I am able to, when people tell me, oh my gosh, like I never saw somebody that looked like me, up there doing this, type thing. So I used to get girls like, whatever, people have curly hair now, right? More, but honestly, a lot of times, like they didn't have curly hair. And I know I would go for jobs. When I got my job at CNN, I went in with straight hair. A lot of my jobs, I would go with straight hair because I was like, well, obviously the white guys running this place, are going to prefer that. So I remember actually when I went and worked for the UFC and I was like, I showed up with straight hair and I was like, I just assumed you guys are going to want this. And they were like, no, actually we like your curly hair better. I was like, wait, I'm sorry. What was that? So I was very happy about that. I still do, mix it up obviously. But it's hard. Just keep going, I guess would be my advice, or don't, or quit when you've had enough of the bullshit. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. Every single day I debate it. I'm out, I'm done because I'm not going to get what I deserve.
Right.
So I'm out. I'm a bounce now while I'm still somewhat mentally sound. And then I go back and forth of well, no, I am going to get what, because I am going to get what I deserve because I have worked this hard and I have put it in and it isn't for nothing, but it's incredibly hard to get passed by and to lose opportunities repeatedly and to not get what you want because, and for 100% fact, it's because how you look. And there's nothing I can change about that. I can't change who's running the show. I can't change who's doing this. So I guess my advice would be know that you're not going to always get a big of slice that you deserve, and try to find a way to become okay with that.
Wow.
And it's an ongoing thing to learn and refine, and I'm still trying to align my aspirations with what is actually possible.
Yeah, I mean, real, you touched on some great
we
stuff.
Got pass the collection plate on that one, brother.
Yeah,
the doors of the church is open.
I know you're still getting to goals that you want to.
Yeah.
But just hearing from you, it's helping those too, come up. So sometimes just hearing that somebody else is going through what you may be going through personally is a lot to pull you up. So I salute you for that and sharing your feelings on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. But
Happy
I mean, thank you. Yeah, it's hard because it's like there's so many women out there hustling, right? Or like, and I mean, because I honestly, like, I remember auditioning for UFC Tonight when they were first putting the show on the air, and I interviewed with Kenny Florian, and we killed it. And I was supposed to go back, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, can you audition with Frank Mir?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, he's great." I can't because I had to go up to San Jose actually to cover a fight. And then I didn't get the audition. And I remember talking to Kenny afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, do you already work on that?" I'm like, "No, I don't, but like, that was great. We totally hit it off. I think it's gonna be great." So then cut to the show comes out, and they hired Todd Harris or somebody, a guy who didn't even really work in the MMA space, but they thought they needed a dude. And so that's the thing, a lot of the women who are out there hustling, busting their ass in sports, busting it, doing such an incredible job, you're still going to come up against, I think we need a dude, just cause, or, so it sucks. So there's so many people out there doing incredible things that aren't getting recognized for it. And then you don't want to just do sports for girls, right? Because I want to be at the real thing. I want to be there. So it's just hard. I guess, like I said, just keep going until you don't want to keep going anymore. Save yourself, save your sanity. Like, I don't know, man.
So, and I think that's part of your makeup. I think there was somewhere you had spoke on or posted or just shared that, you're just incredibly competitive, and you need that drive to deal with like those, challenges that have nothing to do with your skill, your makeup, your talent. They're outside forces that you have no control of. So, I mean, again, I want to, reiterate MH's sentiments by thank you for sharing. And I think that message of keep going is something that, that's why we have this platform, because we all need to hear that, there's a part of it, like they see you on TV and they think it's all good. They don't know what you've been through to push through it. So where did that tenacity, that competitive like drive come from?
Well, I will say a lot of that did come from, like I was talking about how I was where I grew up. So, and I grew up with a father telling me that you guys know you got to be twice as good. You got to be perfect. You got to be this. You got to be that. You can't give them any reason. You can't, you can't. And so that's how I operate like all the time, which does drain you. I will say, like, it's tiring being this competitive, but I don't know any other way. And a lot of it is because, so I had to try to be better just to be considered equal. And then I was like, well, I'm pretty smart. Like I'm not gonna not say I'm smart. I'm smart. Right. So that was something I could win at, right? Like, well, I'm smarter than these kids over here. And so like I win, I get the A's in the class or whatever.
Right.
And I was good at sports too. And so luckily I was good. Like I played all varsity sports, all 4 years of high school, all 3 sports. So I think I ended up actually, I think I left the class with I think I had the most letters, even more than guys. I had 10 letters. 10 letters. My basketball coach, she didn't give me one my first couple of years, son of a gun. But I had 10 letters. And so it's fun. And so, so I've always been competitive, and I like I said, I was good at stuff, but I'm also the type who, if I'm not good at something, that kind of, I get triggered by that. Like how is there something I'm not good at? So I my brain is just to try to get better at things. I'm not a perfectionist, but I do strive to, be better and be better at things. But I do know that a lot of that comes from me just knowing I always have to be better. I can't give them any reason to see a weakness or a whatever. Like I can't.
That's awesome. So really quick, oh my bad, Image, but really quick, this is a quick one. Did you know Dana before? Because like, fight fans know that he hails from Boston as well, Boston area. So did you know him before? You guys?
No, I didn't. I only met him through, just doing the interviews and stuff backstage. Like I said, that's the thing is, when I was getting into it, too, we did have more access to things, and we used to be able to like wait around and talk to Dana after the fights, and have a scrum or you get one-on-ones, and a lot of as the sport grew, the control and the access and things like that get smaller and smaller, right? Because now the UFC can control their own messaging more. They don't need, and so it's a great thing that the sport is growing, and it's really cool to be a part of it. But there are some things that changed that some of us are like, oh man, remember back in the day when we used to get to do this, or remember when you used to do that, or remember when that. And so there was something really kind of nice about it, like being our little thing in a way, But so no, I didn't know him personally. We just met through doing interviews, and like I said, he was always a supporter of mine and always really cool, and and knew that I think he recognized that I could help him bring a certain level of professionalism that maybe hadn't been there with some of the other people, or just that. I'm sure the Boston thing didn't hurt, but it's funny because some people, when I would post about the patch, like, you're just such a D rider. Like, you only like the patch because of Dana. I'm like, dude, I grew up in Boston. Like, I grew up in, like, what?
Let's go. What you having, mate?
So that's funny. I'm a novice when it comes to MMA and some of the combat sports. But can you talk about, because you've seen it all from the early stages to where it is now, I guess the evolution of skill level within the fights now. As a basketball fan, I know they don't play through the post as much anymore. They do other things, right? So like, how is the combat sport and how's it evolved, I guess, skill level wise?
Well, one thing that's very interesting about it is you do see, and I'm going to call them kids because they are, but you get like these kids who are 16, 17 who say, I'm going to be an MMA fighter, and they start training in every single discipline from the beginning. And so now you get these kids who come to the UFC that might be 22, 23, 24, and they're awesome at all kinds of stuff. You're like, well, how are you so good at all of this, right? Because it used to be guy wrestled in college, wrestled all the way through college, got out of college, learned to strike. Somebody was a Taekwondo kid all their life or whatever, got into, 20s and was like, I need to learn how to wrestle or something, right? So back in the day, there used to be so much more of those specialists too, right? The guy was a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. This guy was a knockout artist. This guy was going to take you down. And there were people who were much more specialists. And now when you look at it, guys like that, your Damian Maias, who was such a jiu-jitsu specialist. Well, he's aging out now. Jacare, has retired. There are some of these guys who, even like Junior Dos Santos, who was a total knockout artist, right? He got older, and other people started to be able to rise up and get those knockout things, and also be able to wrestle, and also be able to do jiu-jitsu. And so the level, the median, everything just came up, and the skill level is so much higher now. I will say that the bad side of that, some people will argue, is that now fighters are so much more equally matched up. There is so much more equality amongst the ranks that some people think, well, now it's boring and all you have are point fighters. And, now you have people who have learned a different way to kind of game the system, and it's not as exciting because we're not just seeing people get wailed on or knocked out or subbed all the time. And I see that argument. But to me, the fact that the whole level got better just means that when you do see those, because there's an oh crap moment every event, or if not 2 or 3 of them, to me, the whole the raising of the level across the board is just better for everybody. But it has gotten way better, and you will see that people who are only good at one thing don't last like they used to be able to. And because that one thing is going to get figured out. I mean, for example, Colby had to really bring his striking up, right? Because Colby is a great wrestler and he used to just be able to do that. And he really had to elevate his striking to stay competitive in there. So it's same thing. We know Usman, all this. Now he became a knockout artist, so people had to realize
that one.
People, it was so satisfying. People really had to fill out all of the elements of your game. You can't just be a one kind of specialist anymore.
Nice. So kind of going back to if you were a lawyer, and probably not even from a lawyer's legal standpoint, more from a parent standpoint. So I know MH and yourself, as you have a child too, just kind of what's going on with Kane, and I'm mispronounce his last name. But just, I mean, for those that don't know, some of our listeners is, he just kind of, he's, in jail right now for defending what everybody would probably kind of agree with the parent would do for some first sexual predator molesting his daughter, and he went to seek, that moment of non-clarity to seek revenge. My heart just goes out to him, or like any parent that has to be in that kind of situation, So I know you've had a chance just because of your record and history in the fight game. What are your thoughts about that? Just as much as you want to speak on it, because I know it's definitely tough, especially as coming from a parent or just someone that knows him.
It's incredibly tough. I mean, Kane is a really good dude, I mean, it is, I feel like it's the thing that every parent says they're going to do, right? I mean, and everybody says they would do it. So it's completely understandable. I don't think two wrongs make a right. It's not, it's not what you're supposed to do, but the system isn't supposed to let that guy out.
All right.
Facts.
I mean, so, and the thing that's hard, when people say, oh, well, an innocent guy got shot.
Right.
He didn't know what that guy does. Like, you're not complicit in the thing.
Like, you might want to choose I mean, even just choosing your victim sounds wrong, but just it's like, it's so hard. Two wrongs do not make a right.
Two wrongs do not make a right. You should not take the law into your own hands. Like that, that's why I put up a post with Kane. I'm like, I know it's not right. I know we have laws for a reason. I know we can't all be vigilantes. I know we can't whatever, but I can't tell you what kind of insanity I would be overcome with if you told me that somebody did something to my daughter and then that dude was across the street. I'm like, I'll be right back. Like, that dude's dead. Like, what? I mean,
facts. Get it.
I mean, what's the
yeah. So I just wanted to get your perspective and thank you for sharing, because I know it's just it's one of those, like you said, two wrongs don't make a right thing. So let's just switch it up, MH, man. Let's go to these quick hits, man.
Heartbreaking. Yeah.
So KB, there's just a couple of questions first come to mind to you.
Okay.
We'll go from there. So first time, if ever, you've done this a lot, that you've ever been starstruck.
Ooh. Okay. So I am the biggest, I'm a massive Patrick Stewart fan, Star Trek Next Generation. Wow. Turns out my good friend Michelle actually plays against him now. She's on Picard. She plays Rafi. She looks kind of like me. We're like sisters from another mister. That's my girl Michelle. So she's on the show. So I live vicariously through her now that I'm like, oh my God, I'm on Star Trek. But I'm not. But I'm gonna be one day. That's on my bucket list to play a Klingon. And I think I'd be a real badass Klingon. And we're gonna try to make it happen one day. But so I'm a huge Patrick Stewart fan. It's a dorky thing to be a fan of, but like I just love him. I love him. I've done a million interviews. I used to work in, and cover press junkets. I've interviewed almost everybody, and I've seen a lot of people. I've gotten really excited about a lot of them. But I remember, I was like, I'm going to interview Patrick Stewart, and I was so excited. And it was for a movie. It wasn't for a Star Trek thing. And I remember going in and sitting down and talking to him. And I remember I said something about like, oh, you've usually been known for playing an historic figure and da-da-da. And he was like, what a great phrase. And he's like, an historic figure. And I remember sitting there, I was like, oh my God, he just complimented me on something I said. Like, this is the most amazing performer. Cause like I've seen him on Broadway do the one-man show of the Scrooge. Like he is phenomenal. Okay. And so I remember just sitting there. I was like, oh, I just got props from Captain Picard. And I remember like I was bugging. I was so excited. I'm a dork. So that is one that I was very, 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 very excited about. I'm a lot of it probably would have been back in the day with music. Meeting some of the people that I just loved. Starstruck. I will say I did do the Oscars red carpet one time, and that was pretty cool because you're just like bam, 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 here they come one after another, and you're just oh shit, oh wow, oh wow, oh crap, oh wow, oh gee, oh what so it wasn't even. I mean, some of the people it maybe was starstruck, but more it was just like this is cool, like hey, how are you? Yeah.
That's dope. Is a most surprising person that you interview? I guess that's a person that you interview that surprised you a little bit.
Most surprising person. Whew, that's tough. I feel like I should have an answer for this. And somebody who I didn't. I think I spoke to somebody recently where I was like, had no idea they were that cool or that funny. Wow. I wish I could remember who that was now, though. I don't know. I will say the first time I interviewed Dominick Cruz, I remember walking away going, what was it? What just happened? Like, did that go okay? Like, I was confused because Dominick has an obtuse sense of humor, and he has a good sense of humor, but if you don't, it takes a while to get the rhythm of it and to like understand it. And he is also a competitive person and likes to kind of mess with people during interviews. And I think I was surprised at how like difficult that interview was in a way at first, but I'm so competitive. I remember sitting there going, I'm going to win this interview. Because that's how I think. I'm like, no, I'm going to make it good. Like, I have to make this good. I can't not have a good interview. And so I do remember thinking about that interview a lot afterwards. Because I don't like a bad interview. I need to win the interview.
Okay, couple of quick ones. Favorite movie?
Oh well, just one.
Let's say 5. I'm 4.
Okay. Or favorite comedy or action, or you're just saying that's a lot.
All right, you're right. Let's go favorite comedy and then favorite action.
So favorite comedy is The Jerk. So Steve Martin, I will be starstruck if and when I ever get to meet Steve Martin. I will bow down. I will be like, you are the man. I am a major Steve Martin fan because he writes books and stuff too. I have a bunch of his books. I really, really love Steve Martin. So that is one of my favorite comedies. My other favorite comedy is Bad Words by Jason Bateman. Okay.
Oh, I love Jason.
It's right up there with The Jerk at this point. So Jason, I'm a huge Jason Bateman fan too. He's just so funny, and he directed Bad Words. But long story short, it's about a guy who finds a loophole and goes back as a grown-up to compete in spelling bees. And some of the things he does to these children is the most cruel, most hilarious thing you have ever effing seen. Like, it is, and it's got his dry sense of humor. And there's this cute, adorable little Indian boy that's in it that like is his rival in a way. And this one thing, anyway, it's hilarious. There's one scene where he literally dresses down this woman, and I was crying laughing, like what he says to her, and then the way she walks. So it's brilliant. Bad Words, hilarious. Definitely check it out.
I got it.
Yeah,
I'm putting that on the list.
Yeah. So those are top 2 comedies for me. For like, otherwise, I like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like I said, I like sci-fi. So like, if Close Encounters of the Third Kind, if I'm channel surfing, I mean, I own it, of course, too. But if I'm channel surfing, I'm like, what? Guess I'm sitting here for a couple hours now. Like, I can't not watch it. It's like I can't not watch it. Sorry.
Go. Yeah. Let's go. All right. So without further ado, we want to jump in the winner's circle. This is our platform where we allow you to kind of tell us what's going on, what you're pushing, what you're promoting. And I think we want to start off with, KarynBryant.com, which is your YouTube channel that kind of produces all this content. So when you're like, you want more to do, I was like, you put out some content. So share with us like how that evolved and what your goal is with that platform, because you do have a few different things on that. So
right. So a lot of so yeah, if you go to KarynBryant.com or YouTube/Karyn Bryant, that is the hub where all my stuff is. But so a lot of that is from the last, from 2007 and stuff when we started MMA Heat. So a lot of that footage there is from old MMA Heat stuff and going out and covering things and all of that. So as I mentioned, I am getting a divorce. And so I wanted to rebrand myself and move into some new directions. So the MMA Heat stuff is all still there, and it's this great resource, and it drives the channel a lot because people come back there to look for things that have been there forever, and it's great. But Festivities is really the new angle I'm moving toward, and so festivities.com. I mean, everything kind of lives on both places, to be honest with you. But that's really what I wanted to move forward to, because one thing I discovered after in this last year, let me just phrase it that way, is that I've reached a certain amount of success and people know me for a certain amount of things or a certain kind of thing. But I've discovered that people actually know less about me than I thought they did. And I've also discovered that I think people thought I was much more serious than I am and much more kind of buttoned up. So honestly, the last year has been about trying to reinvent myself, and not even 100% reinvent myself, but to show more of myself that I wasn't able to show before. So the stuff I'm doing on Festivities with Renato Laranja, for people who don't know, he is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy who I guess I would just say
as well.
Oh yes, it's very, very funny, and his whole thing is like he just says the wrong thing all the time. So it is completely not politically correct. It is not for the faint of heart. It is hilarious though, and so it's funny because somebody made a comment the other day, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like they were like, oh, you guys are kind of like Robin Quivers and Howard Stern. Like Howard says the wrong thing all the time and Robin has to set him straight, right? So even though I'm the one doing, leading the interviews and things like that, that is a pretty fair analogy. We talk a lot about MMA, and so we really do interview fighters tonight. The day that we're recording is we're going to have my buddy Gegard Mousasi on, who is just an incredible fighter. But this is episode 27. So we cover MMA, but then we also do the TNF, the Festivities after party. So we talk a lot about pop culture. We get into movies, entertainment, because that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not just into fighting. I like sports, all kinds of sports, but yeah, having worked for MTV, having worked in the film industry on different things, have a lot of interest. And so I'm really now trying to create some projects. I have a lot of things that I'm trying to get out here and sell that will bring those kind of worlds together of sports and entertainment more. So that's definitely what I'm looking to do more, just definitely looking to have more fun, have a looser vibe on things. So the show I also do with Angela Hill, what happened was, the more ratchet you say it, the better it is. What happened was. And so it's just ridiculous. And funny. And so same thing, we do interviews, but that was something we wanted to do because there aren't a lot of women in the space, doing MMA content. There's definitely not two chocolate women out there doing it. So we're doing that together. We have a lot of fun. And yeah, just trying to do something that, a lot of the MMA shows, as you guys know, you're doing something different, right? A lot of the MMA shows are two talking heads who think they know everything. Right. So, we're like, hey, we're welcome. If you're a newbie, welcome. We'll help you. There's no question that's stupid. You don't have to pretend to be, the smartest guy in the room. Just come and hang out with us.
And I think it's dope. You connect with your fans, like taking questions from them, like getting them on the show. So, and today with this form of media, people are so wanting to be a part of it. They want to feed that, which is different from older media. So it's great that you guys do that and give them shots out on the shows.
Yeah, thank you. We're having fun with it.
So talk about that, just kind of creating a new lane within the lane.
Yeah, it's interesting. And honestly, there's a lot that I could do. I'm just a one person operation over here right now, but I have all this great footage from the history with MMA Heat. And so the thing about it is I'm not you know, obviously, yeah, we did some great things together, but you know, that, like I said, that was a brand that I built with my ex, and you know, I just want to move forward. I wanted to create something that was branded just to me. And so honestly, festivities.com, like in my brain, if I were to show you what I wrote out, like I have so much bigger plans for that. I'm just looking for the right strategic partners and stuff to do with that what I really wish I could do. It would be a hub for all kinds of sports. I mean, all kinds of combat sports, and it would be a hub that integrated people from around the world. Like I have big plans for it, you know. But it's tricky, right? Because people do come to my YouTube and I get a lot of views on a lot of the older content that is there. So it is really hard still to build up the new stuff. And I'd be lying if I didn't say it. I mean, it's depressing a lot of the time because you're just like, wow, really? I gotta get more views on that. And so at the end of the day, sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. Cause I am still a chick. And some people are never going to want to hear a show. Like some people are just never going to tune into an MMA show hosted by a chick. And it's just the way it is. Right. So it's unfortunate for them. They're missing out on a lot of stuff. But the cool thing about the festivities things that we're doing, it is so fun. And we have all these people going, holy crap. Like, I can't wait till this show blows up. It's so funny. And it's, you know, I can't wait. I'm here on the ground floor and like, don't forget us. And we're like, oh no, we're not going to forget the OGs. Cause I do believe it, you know, and that's the thing is like, as much as I, on a daily basis, you know, debate quitting, I also know that it's too good to stop. Like, I do know that. And I do know I'm onto something special. And so the thing with Renato about creating that lane, you know, to be honest, yeah, it's not a show I could have done before while I was married. Like, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. It's not. And so when I met with, I had some ideas and I was like, I kind of want to do something be fun. So I literally was like, hey, let's get together. I've known him for years. Let's get together. And I want to talk to you about some stuff. And he was down and we literally just tried it out one time on IG Live. I was like, let's just try it and we'll see. And it worked. Right. And so then we're like, oh, well, we'll come back and we'll do it again. And we'll do it again. And so literally, honestly, now the name Tuesday Night Festivities, it's a big old mouthful. And we're trying to come up with a name a new name for it because, like I said, Festivities was like my new brand, right? So I was like, oh, so this is like the Tuesday night thing we're doing over here. Mm-hmm. But that show now has its own little thing. And so we want to come up with a name for that. So we're still working. We're going to like brand that to something else. But yeah, it's been fun going out there and creating. And I'm not going to lie. It's funny to see comments. Sometimes people are like, I had no idea KB was like that. I had no idea. I didn't know she was like that. And I'm not going to lie though. Like, some of the stuff doesn't come easy to me. Like the reinvention bit where I'm like, what do you mean I have to like show myself off more? Like my body, like I'm not a natural thirst trapper. I'm not a natural, like whatever, you know, it doesn't come naturally. And also I have a daughter, right? So I'm like, I don't want to do this, but you have to play the game. And that's one thing I will say that I've really kind of changed my brain on some of these things is recognizing it as a game, you know, mm-hmm. social media, recognizing, you know, you know exactly what you're doing with the post. Everybody knows exactly what you're doing with the post. I'm doing it anyway. Yes, that is, you know what I mean? Because I got to play the game. And if that's what it's going to take, I used to joke. I'm like, bro, one well-timed nip slip and my career is going to really take it. And the sad thing is that's true because it doesn't matter about my double major and it doesn't matter about all this stuff. It doesn't matter. I can speak a few languages. Like people want to see some titties.
The TNA. So, the TNA.
Shout out to the naturals.
So I show my titties more now. Guess what? You see my titties more now. And I also have more views.
Hey, that's the way of the world.
Like, dude, what am I going to say? It's a game. It's a game.
It is the game. I mean, starting from Kim K's sex tape, right? Like it's the game.
Yeah. Well, shout out to the naturals and unnaturals.
Seriously, well, that's the thing, and that's what I was going to say. But that's the other thing about me. I'm like, the thing about me is the only thing fake on me is my hair color, right? I do lighten it a little bit, but I was like, so I'm out here, you know, a real one out here in the world of silicone. You're like, ooh, that's harder to play than I thought. So I'm not winning the game by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm keeping it real and I'm not getting Botox and I'm not getting all these things. And, you know, And I feel sometimes like, am I an idiot for not doing that? Because everybody else is playing the game and it's working for them to get all shot up with this and that and puffed up and this and that. But I don't want to be that person. That's not who I am. And I also have a daughter, like I said, and I'm trying to raise a strong woman who believes in herself and who doesn't think that she has to look a certain way to succeed, you know? So it sucks because there are certain things that I know I've lost because of that or whatever, but I'm not gonna trash my body for the game. Like there are limits to what I'll do for the game, and I'm not trashing my body for that game.
No, I get it.
Shout out to the naturals.
All right, so wrapping up, man, it's been amazing, and there's so much other stuff that definitely we didn't have time to get to. So hopefully there's another time, another place where we get back to it. But definitely want to you did a little earlier, but is there more personal to you? The MH asked you what would you tell other women, but what would you tell your younger self, or a current mantra or coaching gym that you live by that you want to leave us off with?
Well, I would have told my younger self to get your thyroid checked and to tell the doctor that it's whack, because I have hypothyroidism, and that's why I was heavy all those years. And I finally got it diagnosed. So I would tell my younger self to get your thyroid checked, but that's the silly answer. But the real answer is, you know, I'm not wearing it right now, but I have a bracelet that it's actually a mantra that I came to form with the help of my good friend, Tyron Woodley. And we were doing a show together one time and we were talking about things. And this is the thing that actually does help me, even though I do get wound up and I do get caught up in the game. And I do sometimes also look at, you know, social media or this or that, or what this person's doing, and get, you know, really upset by it and know that it's not fair. And all of that stuff that I said before about being, you know, upset about the not being a meritocracy is 100% true. Mm-hmm. And it does still hurt. But I did come up with, you know, what's meant for me will come to me. And that is literally what I live by right now, because I have to believe in that. You know, I do have to believe in that. And so even though I am frustrated by seeing other people get things that I believe I quote unquote deserve, or I earned it and they didn't, and why are they getting it? That's their path, right? That's what's made for them. So if I'm able to divest myself from the emotion of that kind of thing and just repeat that mantra, it does help me. Right. It definitely does help me. So I think, okay, well, that wasn't meant for me. That wasn't meant for me. And so I do believe that great things are meant for me. And so when those things, I just sometimes wish I had a schedule, if they could tell me when those things coming,
when this thing's gonna drop.
That'd be great.
I feel you.
If I could just get a heads up on that.
little alert, you know, notification.
Just a. And so sometimes, you know, you feel like you get signs, like, but I've felt like I got signs before that said it was close, and I'm like, no. So yeah.
Oh man. So I thank you so much. Really quick, if you could drop when your shows, kind of, so people can know when to go to your YouTube channel or to your IG.
For
please
sure.
Put all of that out there vocally, and we'll put it in the show notes as well.
For sure. Yeah. So what had happened was we do it live on Sunday nights at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on my YouTube, also on my Twitter, and it's also over on Angela Hill's Twitch, her Angie Overkill Twitch over there. So we do that live on Sundays, and then it lives on YouTube and it lives in those places. Then I also have an audio version of it. We have it over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. So you can download What Had Happened Was as well. So this week we just did episode 54, and our latest guests were Sabina Mazo and Chance Rencounter. So you can find that, and Sabina's fighting this coming weekend here at UFC Vegas 50. So definitely worth checking out. And then Tuesday night festivities is, surprise, surprise, on Tuesdays. We do that one at 7 Pacific. So 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Festivities starts on my IG live. And that's where Renato Laranja and I interview a fighter. And then about an hour later, around 8:15 or so, we take it over to YouTube and festivities.com for the Tuesday night festivities after party. And so that's when we get into a lot more about, you know, the pop culture stuff. And we take a lot of stuff. We interact with the fans over there. It's kind of like a love line show too. People have said that over there, we get into a lot of relationship stuff. So it's a lot of fun. So Sunday night for What Had Happened Was, and Tuesday nights for Festivities. And then I'm working this weekend and next week going to London. So all my UFC work is on Fridays, obviously UFC Live and the pre-show. And then on Saturdays, I'm there for the post-show.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, thank you again to our guests. I want to thank you, the people, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. Please know our new show drops every Thursday. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because visual representation matters. But you can also check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. So please stay safe, practice gratitude, and know we're rooting for you.
Screaming, all us blacks got is sports and entertainment until we even.
Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Spent about 2 racks on handmade new rags. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. That's everybody from sports to college class to rap and back.